Uh, I believe I'll be ready to fight again at end of February, probably March. So we'll see.
And this is why I said it. Islam Makhachev has a right and a duty as the champion of this division to fight the best guy in the world, the rightful #1 contender in the world. And you're looking at it, it's Ian Machado Gary.
Islam Makhachev has become the welterweight champion, and the debate is fueling up that who should Islam be fighting next? Shavkat is the top contender at 170, but Islam believes Shavkat does not deserve a title fight next because he has been out for over a year with injuries, and a real contender cannot sit that long and still be first in line. He adds that they did speak, shook hands, and kept it respectful, and if Shavkat fully recovers and the UFC decides he should be next, then he has no problem with it.
Вчера вы здоровались с Шавкатом Рахмоновым, удалось о чем-нибудь поговорить, и что ты скажешь по поводу его заявления о том, что он самая главная угроза в 77?
Ну, во-первых, ему надо вернуться, он уже больше года не дрался. Претендент не может год отстаивать с травмами и прийти и драться за пояс. Да, мы поздоровались, он меня поздравил, пожали просто руку. Ну, если он восстановится, и UFC решит, что он следующий, почему бы и нет.
However, Shavkat Rakhmonov responds to Islam's comments by saying he may be looking for a more favorable matchup, but in his view, he is the most difficult and inconvenient opponent in the division. He believes his current status is proof of that and says he has the confidence to beat anyone at welterweight. At the same time, he makes it clear he will respect whatever the UFC decides and trusts that Islam would accept the fight if it is offered, adding that if he is chosen next, he has no intention of wasting that opportunity.
Yeah, maybe Islam looking for more suitable, more convenient opponent for him. I believe I'm the most inconvenient, hardest fight for him in the division. I'm undefeated for a reason. I believe I can beat anyone in the division. But as Islam said, you know, whatever UFC decides, and I believe he's gonna accept the fight. So if UFC is gonna decide I'm next, I'm also not gonna miss this opportunity. I'm gonna take this fight.
Shavkat Rakhmonov wants to test Islam Makhachev himself to see if his dominance was real or if Jack Della Maddalena just underperformed. He acknowledges Islam's great performance, but insists he needs to find out personally whether it was JDM's off night or Islam's skill that shined. Shavkat calls himself a universal fighter and believes he can make it tough for Islam, eager to see what happens in the matchup.
Were you surprised at how dominant Islam looked in his 170-pound debut against JDM a couple of weekends ago?
Yeah, I believe Islam had a great performance, but I also want to find out for myself, is it JDM had such a bad performance, or Islam had such a good performance? I believe I'm a universal fighter. I can make it hard for him everywhere. So yeah, I just want to find out for myself what's gonna happen.
Shavkat Rakhmonov is also open to fighting again before a title shot, but only if it's a #1 contender matchup. He notes that while he'd prefer to fight for the belt next, the timing likely won't work for Islam, whose next defense might be in April or May. Shavkat also mentions that the most intriguing fight for him would be Kamaru Usman, though he doesn't expect Usman to accept, as he's turned down past opportunities. Shavkat Rakhmonov said, "Of course I would prefer to fight for the title next, but I think this timeline isn't going to work for Islam, February or March. He will probably defend his belt in April or May. If I have to fight before getting a title shot, I have no problem with that. The most intriguing fight for me is Kamaru Usman, but I don't believe he's going to accept a fight against me. He's turned down fights with me in the past." Meanwhile, Ian Gary also believes Shavkat needs to stay active before earning a title shot, pointing out that Shavkat is injured and unable to compete while he is picking up big wins, including victories over top-ranked opponents. From his perspective, Shavkat is not actually back yet and is only trying to stay relevant by appearing at events and talking about a return, but until he is fighting again, Gary doesn't see him as part of the real title conversation.
So when you've got someone like me who had a very, very tough and close fight with that man, he won the opportunity to fight for the title. And due to the fight with me, he has been out injured and has not been able to be active. Whilst I've racked up a win against the current #5 in the world and the #1 in the world in Bilal Muhammad. So with all due respect to Shavkat, and I have nothing but respect for him, let's talk about him when he's actually back, because he's not right now. So in my mind, he's just trying to maintain relevancy by showing up at these fights and being in the picture and saying he's going to be back, but he's not back. I'm here and I'm ready.
Shavkat Rakhmonov reacts by keeping it straightforward, pointing out that he already beat Ian Gary even while injured, and questioning how Gary can be viewed as a top contender when he hasn't finished anyone in his last 6 fights and was nearly stopped by Prates, which, in his view, doesn't match the profile of a true #1 contender. Shavkat Rakhmonov said, "No trash talk, just facts. Ian Gary lost to me while I was injured. He hasn't finished anyone in his last 6 fights, and Prates nearly stopped him. Doesn't sound like a #1 contender to me." Meanwhile, former UFC double champion and Hall of Famer Daniel Cormier views Shavkat Rakhmonov as a particularly tough challenge for Islam Makhachev at welterweight. He describes the potential matchup as a crazy fight and believes it would likely be the most difficult fight of Islam's career. Daniel Cormier said, "Shavkat Rakhmonov is the guy that I think about, and I go, man, that is a crazy fight to think about. That would easily be the hardest fight of Islam Makhachev's career." Jorge Masvidal also considers Shavkat Rakhmonov the only welterweight capable of defeating Islam Makhachev. He notes that while the division is full of talented fighters, Shavkat stands out due to his size, wrestling, cardio, and striking. Despite being sidelined by injuries, Masvidal sees him as one of the most dangerous at 170 and deserving of a top-tier fight, viewing him as the only real challenge to Islam.
I feel like either one of them right now could fight for the title. If it's Carlos, I'm happy. If it's Morales, I'm happy. You know, but we also got to add the monster at that weight class, the boogeyman, Shavkat. Shavkat is amazing, and that's the only guy actually that could beat Islam. That's the only guy that could beat Islam, and he's naturally bigger, great wrestler, has an endless tank of gas, and he's not bad on the feet. You know, he does eat some shots to give some shots, but he's not bad on the feet. And now that I think about it, I forgot completely about Shavkat. He's been injured for so long, but he's another one of my favorite welterweights. He could be another guy that could beat him all, man. Shavkat's really good, so maybe we get Shavkat versus Jack Magdalena, or Shavkat versus one of these guys, Carlos or Michael, whoever doesn't fight for the title, because we need to see Shavkat fighting for that title.
On the other hand, Ian Gary is ready to face Islam Makhachev anywhere, even in Dagestan, Russia. He explains that the decision is up to Islam, and he respects considerations like Ramadan, but emphasizes he'd prefer to fight sooner rather than later, since he doesn't like long periods of inactivity, and notes that Islam isn't the most active fighter in the UFC.
How does this play out, Ian? What do you think? What is your prediction? When are you fighting for the belt?
The ball's in Islam's court right now. Whenever he wants to go, whenever he's ready, wherever he wants, I've said it. If he wants to do it in Dagestan, Russia, I'll be ready and I'll be there. He's mentioned he wants to do it on the White House. I think that's too far away. Why wait? I understand that he has Ramadan and you have to respect that. However, that's a long time away. I would rather we fought sooner, and I'd rather we get this over and done with, and I can get that belt wrapped around my waist, because I don't like inactivity, and Islam isn't the most active fighter in the welterweight division, or in the UFC for that matter.
Ian Machado Gary reveals plans to train with Ilia Topuria as preparation for Islam Makhachev. He explains that he will work with his friends in Georgia to challenge the dominance of Russian and Dagestani fighters, and expresses confidence that he can defeat Islam and claim the welterweight spotlight.
I have already spoke to Ilia. I have already spoke to the guys at WOW. I would absolutely love to go back to Madrid, and I would love to look. Hey, when we speak about Georgia, Ilya, he can help me out a lot. You know what I mean? With my friends in Russia, or my friends in Georgia over here, we're going to stop the Russians from having their success. We're going to stop the Dagestanis from having that success, and we're going to shut him down, and we're going to take his head clean off his shoulders.
Furthermore, Ian Machado Gary tears into the idea of Kamaru Usman getting the next welterweight title shot, arguing that Usman is no longer relevant with only one win since 2021. In his view, even mentioning Usman in the title conversation makes no sense, and he believes Usman should go back to the line, take another fight, rebuild his position, and prove himself again. He makes it clear that there is no chance Usman deserves a title opportunity while he is still in the picture.
He's the last one down the list who deserves a title shot. The fact that we're even mentioning his name amongst this title contention is bollocks. He's nowhere near the top. He had one win over a guy who's had nearly double digits lost in the UFC in Joaquin Buckley. And you've got guys out here that are absolutely destroying the division, that are far more deserving than he is. So he can, with all due respect, he can sit the fuck back in the back of the line and wait and fight another fight and get more relevant and fight someone up the rankings. But there's no way on God's green earth that he is fighting for a world title next. Not when I'm here.
Kamaru Usman considers Islam Makhachev one of the toughest matchups in MMA, noting that he can identify any weaknesses in his game. Facing Islam reminds him of the intense pressure he experienced before fighting Colby Covington, pushing a fighter into their deepest competitive zone. After Islam's latest performance, Usman regards him as one of the most complete and competitive fighters in the sport today.
I'm not here to glaze it in any way, shape, form, or fashion, but I say it's the most competitive because when I look at a guy like Islam, I don't really see holes like that. And that's something that scares me, that causes that heartbeat to go up. And that's where you see some of the most spectacular performance. Because the last time I felt that like that was Colby Covington won. And that's when I was like, yo, you got a guy that can wrestle just as good as you, a guy that can grapple just as good, a guy that can maybe not strike it, but a guy that can strike just as well. You have a guy that's good in all these things. How do you get that victory? And that's where you live. That's where you get that you know, your spirit just is in there to just fight it out. And so I would say yes, if you're talking about which fight right now is probably the most competitive. And listen, Islam is great. He's great. Especially what he did last night. Islam is great. You can't take anything away from him.
On the other hand, Ian Gary talks about his recent altercation with Khamzat Chimaev backstage at UFC Qatar.
Good job. Good job tonight. Ready to go?
No, I'm on Armin.
Oh, he's not going to fight me. He's good. He's a champion. Don't worry. What's wrong? Whoa. Come on. Relax, boys. Relax. Dude, that's just childish. You're meant to be a champion in this sport. Look at me. You're meant to be a champion in this sport. Your friend just won. Don't ruin his victory. Arman, congratulations.
Ian Gary thinks Khamzat looked like a child, not a champion, during their backstage moment, explaining that a possible language barrier and misunderstanding made Khamzat think he was refusing the fight, and he believes that is when Khamzat switched and started cursing.
I turn around and there's a security guard in front of us. And I'm like, why are you there? We just had a cordial conversation with no animosity whatsoever. We're not gonna fight. And then I think in that moment, due to a potential language barrier and misunderstanding, I think Khamzat took that the wrong way, as in like, he's not gonna fight me. And then everything switched and he just started to curse and he said, fuck you, bitch. But like all these things, I just turned to him, what's wrong? And he just pushed me. And I was like, dude, that's so childish. I just came over and celebrated Arman and his team, of which you are a part of. Congratulations on the victory. And now you're turning into a little child, pushing me and verbally assaulting me.
In Gary's view, the situation is blown out of proportion, and a true champion is meant to lift up his teammate instead of bringing negative energy into the moment. He sees it as a clear misunderstanding mixed with overreaction, and while he does not expect much self-control from someone who is always looking for conflict, he believes Khamzat is simply searching for confrontation, which, in his eyes, makes him come across as childish rather than champion-like.
This is ridiculous. You're meant to be a champion in this sport. Don't dampen your friend's energy and bring this negative energy. Be happy. Be proud of what your friend just did. And don't come at me with that energy. So I think it's a massive misunderstanding and a massive over-exaggeration on Khamzat's being. And just, I guess I shouldn't expect someone like Khamzat to have the self-control, but I think he's just always looking for a fight, and it was a massive misunderstanding, and I think he looked like a child, not a champion.
On the other hand, Khamzat Chimaev sent a warning to Ian Gary in a recent tweet, but he later deleted that. However, in that tweet, Khamzat clearly warns Gary, telling him that he would not last even a minute in his world, and making it clear that he views himself as far too dangerous and dominant for Gary to handle. Ian Gary said, "White boy, you will not survive 1 minute in my world." Ian Gary reacts to Khamzat's deleted tweet by dismissing it, saying he is confident he would survive just fine, and questioning why Khamzat even used the term white boy when, in his view, they are both the same. He adds that he has no immediate plans to move up to middleweight, but if Khamzat really wants the fight, then he is ready and does not feel he needs to prove himself to anyone.
Did you see his deleted tweet about you?
No.
White boy, you will not survive 1 minute in my world.
I definitely would, and I'm pretty sure we're both white, so I don't know what the point of the white boy is.
I think you're right.
Do you know what I mean? I definitely survive a minute with him. I have no plans of going up to middleweight anytime soon, but if he wants to, then, dude, I'm game to fight. Do I need to prove myself, Errol? Or does everyone understand? Anyone, anywhere, anytime.
Meanwhile, Khamzat Chimaev also explains his reactions come from a sense of respect. He doesn't like being approached from behind or having someone act like they're in his corner. He expects people to approach him properly, and Gary's behavior in that moment felt disrespectful, which sparked the tension between them.
Touch somebody else, that's respectful. Don't punch somebody behind, like...
He punched you in the back?
Yeah, like they punching, like slapping my back, I have to respect. If you want to show respectful, touch somebody. That's why I said tell him to touch somebody, respect. That's it. He came like there to make some hacks for him, that guy. Trying to be corner, but never gonna be corner. He just fight. He won't. I don't know what.
That's all we have from today's video, and we hope you enjoyed it. Share your thoughts in the comments section, and don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel for more amazing MMA videos.